Well, so I'm going to be reviewing the structured data analysis competitive comparison tool on SEO Workflows. There's two quick disclaimers here before I jump into things. Disclaimer number one, this is live scraping pages and unfortunately does not have JavaScript rendering capabilities. So if a competitor or a client is using JavaScript rendering to populate their schema markup on the page, it's not going to extract that, unfortunately. Maybe that might be a feature I add in the future, but for the time being, that's kind of what we're working with here. And then disclaimer number two is that, again, because we're live scraping websites, we sometimes might run into issues. The website might block my crawler that's being used to scrape these websites, so errors might come up. With all of that in mind, it generally works pretty well. But again, those two kind of disclaimers are important. This is an example file that you could get yourself if you come into here and just click on examples. This is just this file right here. It gives you the template that you need, which is these three columns: URL, page type, and site type. So what it's actually going to do is that it's going to extract the schema markup for each of these pages, and then it's going to do a comparison based on the client and competitive pages for each page type. Because when you're thinking about schema markup, you're generally going to want to look at, what is a competitor using for X page type, maybe a category page versus our category pages. You wouldn't compare a competitive blog to our homepage, for example, just because a blog and a homepage are going to have completely different types of schema markup on it. So again, it gives the page type and it uses that to make the actual comparison. And then the site type, because it's going to compare the client against all of the competitors to let you know if any of the competitors are using different schema types for a specific page type that we are not. I know that was maybe a little bit confusing to hear verbally, but let's try it out and we'll show you the output. So come in here, we'll go into download just because I just downloaded that example file. We'll add that. Here's being a little laggy because I'm also doing a video record right now. Shouldn't take very long. If you have more pages, it'll definitely take a bit longer, but it's relatively fast. We'll come up to the downloads and we'll open up that download. Come on. That's the input file. It should be load up the output file. And there's the output. So this is the full data set. The full data set shows you everything that the tool extracted. You see the domain, the URL, the page type, the site type, and the structured data types and the structured data format, which is either going to be JSON, LD, or microdata. I unfortunately haven't added the functionality to get any other types other than JSON, LD, and microdata, but in reality, those are the two types that Google really understands. So you shouldn't be using any other types regardless, at least in my opinion. If you click in the opportunities, it will specifically tell you at the page type level if there's something a competitor is using that we are not. So this is the important part, right? So we see here what this is pretty much telling us is that for the three page types of homepage, service, and blog, we have all of the different types that these competitors are using, except for blog posting structured data type on the blog page type. So this is true. It is an opportunity because the competitor is using it on the same page type as we have, but we're not using that type of schema element. You definitely need to still kind of look at what blog posting really is and decide if it's really relevant to be using, in your opinion. And you might come to the conclusion that you're like, oh, I'm using article schema, which functionally does the same thing. So maybe I don't end up using that, but hopefully you get the point, right? Very effective, very quick way to look at a true competitive comparison of how a competitor is using schema markup versus how we're using it. I think that's it for the time being. Of course, feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you.